Chapter 4. Tiffany. Good morning. Is it okay if I drop Lucas off a little early? Tiffany glanced up to see Mary Beth in the doorway. Her strawberry blonde hair was pulled into a low bun at the back of her head, and her dress, slacks, and silk shirt declared her professionalism. But though she was in charge, Mary Beth had a heart for others, and it showed. A lot of bosses would just assume they could leave their kids before the official opening time, but Mary Beth always asked if she needed to. Of course, he can help me assemble the workbench I got for the kids. She smiled and waved Lucas in. Because Lucas had been her first kid, and part of the reason she got the job at the resort, he was kind of her favorite, though she would never say that out loud. He could, but wasn't that Israel I just saw leaving here? Mary Beth pointed a slender finger at the door. Tiffany felt her cheeks heat up. Yeah, he helped me carry these boxes. She nodded at the box he had set down on the table. I dropped that one in the parking lot this morning and tools spilled everywhere. He helped me pick it up and bring it in. How nice of him. Of course, that's Israel for you. Chance is always talking about how willing he is to help others. You know, he could help you with the bench. A suggestive tone colored Mary Beth's words, and she lifted a brow in emphasis. Tiffany bit back her smile. Yeah, he offered, but I told him it wasn't necessary. I'm sure I can figure it out, and he has his own work to do. What? Mary Beth's mouth fell open in a perfect O. Why on earth wouldn't you let him help you? It would be the perfect way to get to know him better. Would it? I can just imagine the great conversations we could have between parent drop-offs and kids screaming for my attention, Tiffany said with a chuckle. She wouldn't mind having a conversation with Israel. He had been helpful, was certainly easy on the eyes, with his muscular frame and kind eyes. And he wanted a family. But having a meaningful conversation at her job with children running around made about as much sense as trying to sell heating pads in the desert. Mary Beth laughed and wandered over to the box Israel had placed down. You're right, but what did you think of him? She began taking out the plastic tools and handing them to Lucas. He seems nice. Tiffany wondered where this conversation was going, and she narrowed her eyes at her friend. Why? I was just curious. I don't know him well myself yet, but Chance speaks so highly of him. So you said. Mary Beth began assembling the workbench pieces. He also told me that Israel was quite taken by you at the wedding. Ah, now this was making more sense. Her friend was trying to play matchmaker. What was it with married people trying to set up their single friends? She could be annoyed, but instead she found herself warmed by the thought that Israel was taken with her. He did he? I find that surprising since today is the first day I've spoken with him. You don't have to talk to someone to find them attractive. Mary Beth flashed a smile and wiggled her eyebrows. I'm pretty sure you just need to have working eyes for that. That was definitely true. Tiffany remembered how her breath had caught momentarily when she'd first looked into Israel's chocolate eyes that morning. Maybe a conversation isn't necessary for initial attraction, but a relationship needs more than initial attraction to last. In her case, it needed a man who was okay with his wife's job being a mother. Of course it does. Mary Beth shook her head, as if Tiffany was being silly. But the only way you find out if there's more than attraction is by spending time with people. Point taken. Tiffany rolled her eyes good-naturedly. But he hasn't asked me out, so that's a moot point right now. But if he did, would you say yes? Mary Beth glanced up raised brows punctuating her question, before continuing her work on the bench, which now appeared nearly half done. That woman really was a whiz. Would she? She hadn't dated in so long that she wasn't sure she still knew how to date. But there was something about Israel that appealed to her. Something that made her think he would be very different from Connor. Maybe she could try again, with the right man. I don't know, maybe. I'll take that as a yes. Mary Beth finished tightening the last bolt and picked up the finished bench. Where do you want this? Tiffany shook her head as an amused chuckle slipped past her lips. Leave it to her friend to shift her words. Still, she wasn't wrong. Tiffany probably would say yes. You're amazing. Over there is fine. Thank you. Now you know why Chance married me. She grinned widely as she placed the bench down and gave Lucas a hug before turning her attention on Tiffany once again. You know, you're pretty amazing too, and I'm sure you'll make a wonderful wife to someone someday soon. Tiffany opened her mouth to protest, but before she could, Mary Beth held up her hands and backed toward the door. When you're ready, no pressure. Have a good day, Lucas. You too, Mommy. When Mary Beth disappeared around the corner, Lucas turned to Tiffany. Are you going to marry Mr. Israel? Oh, I don't think so, honey. Your mom just wants us to get to know each other. Why? Do you know Mr. Israel? Lucas nodded. Yep, and he's very nice. I think he would make a good daddy. Not as good as Mr. Chance, but a good one. Tiffany chuckled and ruffled Lucas's hair. Well, I'll keep that in mind, though I don't have a little boy who needs a daddy right now. No, but you might someday, right? She certainly hoped so. Someday, buddy. But how about you and I forget about that for now and check out these tools? Lucas's eyes lit up. Yes, let's do it.